It's a beautiful day here in Boulder, Colorado. Colorado conducted their 12th spring practice earlier today. We had a press conference with Coach Prime, Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter as well, to kind of set the stage for Saturday's spring game. The question is it going to be as nice on Saturday as it is right now? And I think it's still a little too far out to really trust a forecast, but every time I look, that high keeps getting a little bit lower. Now it's kind of in the mid 40s.
Yeah, this is a perfect day. Mike McIntyre would have loved this day. He always used to say it's a beautiful day in Boulder,
Yeah.
but this would have been his type of day. But yeah, Saturday it's looking mid 40s, but I'm not sure a lot of the fans are going to care. I think 45,000 people are just excited to come here, and watch this team. And but as Coach Prime says, this is not going to be the same team, right? Whatever you see on Saturday, but I think they're excited to see what does Coach Prime look like on the sidelines. What's his team going to look like, and it's interesting. And at the start of the press conference, he announced that they sold out season tickets for the first time in 27 years. Fans obviously excited about this whole program, and I'm not sure even a chilly day is going to deter that.
Yeah, let's get into what he talked about today. The number one thing that stood out to me is that Travis Hunter, in his opinion, is a better football player at this stage of his development than he was in his playing career. Now, Coach Prime said that, hey, maybe he was a little bit faster at that stage, but we referenced it. The one play where he goes to play corner this spring as an example to show what they want from their corners in terms of press was a thing of beauty, and he's going to play some defense on Saturday, so that should be fun to see Travis Hunter going both ways. But that stuck out to me when Coach Prime said that today.
Yeah, and then he added by far, not even close. So the interesting thing to me is that neither him or Travis is doing anything to, calm the hype around him at all. Travis was even asked, hey, Coach says this about you, how are you able to flip the switch from receiver to corner? He's like, I'm a football player. I just compete, and he's just kind of nonchalant about it. Like, that's just what I do. I'm a good player, so it's going to be fun to watch this kid because, like I said, they haven't, calmed down any of the hype. I mean, they're fueling it, right? And they're the ones saying, hey, this kid's better than I am, and Travis like, I can do that. So I think however many plays we see him on Saturday, it's going to be exciting to see, what he does. And, Coach did say, he goes, Travis doesn't know this at this point, but I'm going to tell him he's going to play some corner on Saturday. So fans might be able to get to see him on both sides of the ball.
I don't think they should have to try to slow down the hype. I mean, Cheeto Beawuzie was a heck of a cornerback here. I covered Jimmy Smith here, covered Paul Richardson, Laviska Shenault. They haven't had somebody, especially when you talk about the ability to play both ways, clearly. But even at those specific positions, receiver and corner, I don't know if I've covered a better player. Probably not corner, but maybe receiver at this point. He's still got to prove himself, and there's a reason that he's focused more on that this spring.
Yeah, for sure. But, you and I talked about, one of the open practices that he reminds us a little bit of Paul Richardson, maybe the most fluid receiver. Laviska was different. He was, just that athlete could play running back, things like that. But as far as fluid receiver, he sort of reminds us of a Paul Richardson, maybe the best we've seen since then. And I hate to put this name out there with Travis, but there's not a whole lot of examples of two-way stars. But Byron Whizzer White back in the 30s was like a big-time star here. And there's other guys that did it over the years, but not to that level of like Whizzer White, right? And Travis is almost like potentially at that type of level. I'm not going to say he's going to be Byron Whizzer White, but that's the last time I think that we saw somebody superstar on both sides of the ball. That just tells you how rare it is. And so if this kid can pull it off, it'd be something.
Coach Prime also likes a walk-on in this program. He referenced Charlie Offerdahl a couple times today in his press conference, and he said, hey, if it was up to me, he'd already have his number. So that's another fun storyline that this spring has provided to us.
Yeah, in fact, he was asked about, hey, are you getting to know the players' names and everything? And he kind of got a little, I don't know, testy, but he's like, yeah, I know these guys. Like if they've done something to show that I need to know them, I know who they are. And he mentioned Charlie, and he goes, Charlie Offerdahl. Why do I know his whole name? It's because he works, and that's the type of guy that he likes. And, Charlie is someone that, he made an impression on the previous coaching staff. That's why, he got some playing time. It wasn't a ton of yards, but he set a record for the most rushing yards by a walk-on, in CU history. And, and he's clearly going to have a role here, whether he runs the ball a lot or not. that's the type of player that Coach Prime likes having on his team.
Obviously, there's so much buzz around Colorado football right now. We feel it every day because we're interacting with fans. When you talk to Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, they really do seem like they're so much into what they're doing day to day. And yeah, they're on the social media channels, but I don't know how much they realize, how much things have changed around here. Clearly they don't because they weren't around here before, but It is interesting when those guys talk and they're asked about the buzz on campus. They almost kind of play ignorant to it. It's almost like it isn't something that they notice day to day, whereas everybody that covers this program really feels that.
Yeah, and I think part of it is I don't know this for sure, but it seems like both of them might have online classes because they're not talking about. I mean, Travis even said, "I'm not on campus very much," and so I think they're taking online classes just to kind of. I mean, let's be honest, they're celebrities, right? And maybe not high level celebrities like Dion at this point, but they're two of the most marketable college athletes in the country, and so they've talked about, hey, we don't know. I mean, it's kind of football, and then you kind of do your thing, you go home and things like that, and so I'm sure they know. Shedeur mentioned, hey, I went out to eat the other day, and there's a newspaper clipping of me on the wall. He goes, I didn't know that was there, so they know it, but I think that they are pretty locked in on football.
It was probably your story, right? If it was here in Boulder. So he's reading a Brian Howell exclusive while he's taking care of some business.
Or at least seeing that it's there. I don't know if he's reading it.
But the other topic, and we're going to go more in depth on this in terms of the transfer portal and the guys that have decided to leave this program. Mm-hmm. Coach Prime said that they're not necessarily disappointed in any guys that left, but he also made the point that they didn't push guys out up to this point. So they wanted to try to keep, I think, the team intact to have more bodies for a nationally televised spring game. Yeah. And now you look at a couple spots, it's starting to get a little bit more thin, especially on the defensive line. I still think they'll be just fine, but I think there was some confusion because initially the NCAA said, well, we're going to have a portal window at the beginning of May. I don't know when that got moved back to the middle of April, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the programs that are still having to do spring ball. You'd like to be able to focus on teaching rather than having to worry about guys leaving. Right. And then also you've got to spend so much time as a staff scouting the transfer portal and recruiting those guys. Clearly they need to fix that for next year.
Yeah, I don't like that they moved it, and not only from the CU perspective, but there's a lot of schools that had spring games last Saturday, and they've got them, this Saturday, and there's some that have them on the 29th. I don't think there's anybody that goes into May. That's why May seemed perfect. Is let everybody get through spring, and then you deal with all that. And I think having players leave. I mean, I think it's 8 already that have left since the portal opened on Saturday, and I wouldn't say deplete yet, but we'll see how many between now and Saturday even. I mean, it could be 15. That's a lot of scholarship guys that are leaving right before a spring game, and so it will be interesting to see. We saw 2 defensive linemen go in the portal earlier today as we're doing this, and so how thin is defensive line at this point? How thin? Receiver is already thin. So if anybody goes in the portal there, what happens? So I would rather see that window. Just everybody finishes April 29th or whatever it is. Start it in May.
All right, we're going to come back with some more analysis of the guys that have left the portal. We're going to get a chance to talk to Coach Sal Sunseri for the first time, the new defensive tackles coach. We're going to get a chance to talk to the coordinators on Friday, and then obviously the big spring game on Saturday. So a busy week here around CU football.